Hello, and welcome to another episode of your Bish Therapist podcast. I am your host, Melissa Reich, your Bish Therapist. I am a licensed therapist turned pop culture aficionado, and I am here to serve clinical interpretations and hot takes on pop culture and beyond. So today's episode is going to be a little different. I decided to do a pop culture roundup, so to speak. There's a lot of things that have been happening in and outside of the Bravoverse that I wanted to touch on a couple of different things. So I have so many fun topics today that I want to discuss. And before we get to that, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping first by saying thank you to the amazing people who watched my YouTube channel, who listened to my podcast, maybe who did both. Thank you so very much for your support. My last episode got a lot more attention than I'm used to getting. I am a new podcast. I've never hidden that fact at all. So for me, this is really, really exciting. And, with a lot of eyes and ears on my podcast, I definitely was prepared for the other side of that. It seems that there were people who got really angry about some things that I said, which, let me be clear. Everybody has the right to their opinion. I am not under any sort of delusion that tells me that everybody's going to like me. I know that I'm not going to be for everybody, and that's okay. I respect that. There's a saying that, I can be the sweetest peach on the tree, but some people just don't like peaches. And so for me, it's okay, that people were not, had a lot of different opinions. That's okay. What did happen, and I'll just briefly address, is that after the episode aired, I got a lot of angry comments on my YouTube, and I got a lot of 1-star reviews on Apple. So I don't know what that's about, and I certainly don't know who's behind it. But what I will just briefly say is that I am going to choose to lead with love and self-respect and dignity. And I can only control me. I cannot control other people. So all I can choose to do is keep my side of the street clean. And I'm going to continue to focus on my voice. And, what I'm trying to do here was just help people and do a little bit of good in the world. I appreciate people who have reached out, sent messages that some things that I've talked about have helped them. That warms my heart, and I'm really appreciative of that. So for me, here on out, I just want to say thank you. I will not let, any of it disrupt my peace. And I am excited to continue to serve Bish with you all. So for those listeners who are new, listeners and people watching this on YouTube, there are a couple of episodes, episode 0, episode 1, that shares a little bit about who I am, where I got my name. I'm not going to go over that again because I'm sure people who have listened already kind of know the deal on that. But please go back and listen. It's a cute story where my name comes from. And, just thank you to all the new people who are here. Thank you and welcome. And I'm glad you're here. So on to some Bravo news. The first thing that I want to talk about is there's another Bethenny and Carole feud. And I did a couple of podcast episodes about Bethenny's interview with Rachel. And, again, all the links to all these episodes are on my link tree on my Instagram and YouTube as well, if you want to go back and listen to that. But the reason I bring it up is because it was just such a interesting turn of events. So for people who didn't see it, long story short is that Bethenny loves TJ Maxx, which great. I love people who have money and they're thrifty. That's how you continue to have money. I think that's great. So she and Brynn, who is just so sweet, by the way. Brynn is just such a a sweet kid. And by the way, so there is a little hometown connection here because Bethenny's ex-husband, Jason, lives in the area that I live in. And so from time to time, I've seen him and Bryn at events and things like that. Events like, I'm not special. I don't go to events. I just mean, local community events and things like that. So, there's that kind of funny little hometown connection there. But so, and for everything people say about Bethenny, my word, does she seem to love that child. And, I just want to point out that when you didn't receive the love you needed as a child, but you're able to give it as a parent, that is really, really, really special. So to all those cycle breakers out there who have done that, bravo. Way to go. That's amazing. So Bethenny goes into TJ Maxx and she is talking about how she has quote unquote friends that, work there because she's there a lot. And she brought her friends a bag of products, Bethenny's products or things that maybe were gifted to her. So she did say that the products were opened. They were opened but unused. And she films herself, and this is where people feel this is problematic. She films herself going up to the counter, and there's a woman there, and Bethenny says, "Oh, here's my friend." And then Bethenny asked what her name was. So, that's interesting. If you're really friendly with someone, you're going to know their name. That's really important. So I don't know, maybe she just forgot. But so the woman shared her name, and I'm not gonna put this woman on blast, and I'm gonna explain why. So the woman shares her name, and Bethenny is recording this whole encounter of, her giving this bag of opened goods to this woman. And the woman looked like a deer in headlights. So the first question was, did Bethenny know that, or did this woman consent to being filmed? And in my opinion, from watching it, it didn't look like she was prepared to be filmed or knew she was being filmed. So that was problematic, the first thing. The second thing is that Bethenny, the woman said to Bethenny that she is not allowed. So TJ Maxx store policy is that any employee who works there, they are not allowed to accept gifts in any way, shape, or form, monetary or otherwise. And Bethenny said, "Oh, don't worry, I'll tweet." I think she said I tweet, but she said, "I'll contact TJ Maxx and I'll let them know that it was me and they'll be fine with it." Which, right there, that literally says, I feel the rules don't apply to me. And, I'm special, so don't you worry your little head. This woman was seriously terrified. And so what ended up happening was TJ Maxx, tweeted or X, I don't know what you call it now since the name change, but they said, all employees, they cited their store policy. Gifts are not allowed. And they told Bethenny that she needed to come back and pick up her stuff, which I thought was wild. And you can go look for yourself. I don't know if Bethenny had since deleted that video, but I just know that it had to be it just had to be embarrassing for everyone involved, especially the woman who was just like, "I don't think I can accept this." And Bethenny's just like pushing it on her. So, of course, Carole Radziwill comes on in and says, "I don't get paid to talk about this anymore. So all I'm going to say is, and then she said, #white savior complex. So for those of you who don't know, a white savior complex is essentially, it's a trope, which Carole loves the word trope and she loves a trope. And so maybe this is why she said it, but about how, white people can offer their assistance to people of color, Indigenous people, Black people, people of color, all those communities, but they do it in a way that is self-serving, and it does more harm than good to the people that they're helping. So that is kind of the background of what that means. I'm going to let you all judge for yourself about what you think about that. I think it's great to share the wealth and give people stuff. I mean, these celebrities, they get tons and tons and tons of product. So I just think that, again, Carole and Bethenny, they were friends because they have a lot of similarities, which I don't think Carole wants to acknowledge. And so this is all I'm going to say about that. And, hopefully, that woman did not get in trouble. And hopefully, Bethenny starts to understand that the rules do apply to her, and, helping people is great. There were also critics saying that, Bethenny does things to help other people because, it makes her feel good, which there's something called helper's high. That's not the only term for it, but that's one term for it, which is that all helpers, myself included, we get what I will call secondary gains from helping people. So secondary gains is essentially when you do something for an altruistic reason, but you do ultimately benefit in some way. So using a therapist as an example, I benefit because it truly makes me feel good to help other people, like truly. And the second thing is I get paid to do it. So those are secondary gains. And I think that we have to be honest about, when we do certain things, it's very infrequent that something is completely altruistic, just because of human nature. So, do I think Bethenny, are there some secondary gains for her helping people? Sure. But there are also secondary gains for the rest of us humans who do things to help people too. Sometimes I think Bethenny takes it a step above that. It can kind of get a little tone deaf or cringy. And again, I didn't like that. It seemed like the women didn't have consent when she was filming this whole thing. Consent is key. And, at this point we need to be mindful of that. So that is that story. Next up, I want to talk a little bit about the Bravos and the Wifetime Achievement Award. After this week's episode of Real Housewives of Orange County, the Tres Amigas, Vicki Gunvalson, Shannon Bedore, and Tamra Judge were on Watch What Happens Live. And Andy announced there is the highmost honor, which is called the Wifetime Achievement Award. And he, explains what that award means, but essentially it's a housewife who has really given her life to Bravo, to, share her ups and downs and just to put it all out there. And Andy announced on Watch What Happens Live that Vicki Gunvalson was the recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award. And what I want to say is that I've never been the biggest fan of Vicki. I think that for me, as a 2-time cancer survivor, most of you know that I'm a survivor of ovarian cancer at age 17. I wasn't supposed to survive that, but I did, miraculously. And I currently have a chronic cancer that I'm managing that it's, you kind of have it forever. It's complicated. So for me, that whole cancer scam thing really irritated me. And, in fact, it was interesting because Andy asked on Watch What Happens Live, it was like the shady game, which, we all love Andy because he's so shady, and these games on Watch What Happens Live are so shady. But essentially, he asked the ladies if they could confirm that Vicki really didn't know about it. And just Vicki, which understandably, she's so sick of talking about it at this point. It doesn't make her look good. So she, doesn't want to go there. So she kind of made a comment like, we're not even talking about that. And then Tamra and Shannon just kind of quickly agreed with her and they moved on. So, the whole thing, if you guys aren't familiar with this, the Brooks Ayers, Ayers, that is how you spell his last name, the whole cancer scam where he said he had cancer and then it came out that he faked certainly he faked reports. He was not honest about things. And then as the season wrapped, he claimed that he was miraculously in remission despite stopping chemotherapy, which not all cancer patients need chemotherapy, by the by. So don't even get me started on that. But it just was really fishy. And then Vicki and some of the other ladies came out and she was like, he was lying. And in fact, a lot of people don't know this. So Brooks, when Vicki left Dawn, it came out that she left, Dawn for Brooks because Brooks called her and claimed that he had pancreatic cancer. A lot of people don't know that. And so Vicki ended up leaving Dawn to be with Brooks. And then it came out that, Brianna was just like on him because Brianna's a nurse and she knows, she's a smart cookie. And it turned out he had pancreatitis. So here's what I'm going to say about that. Past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. Bloop. So here's the thing. And I don't always agree, with some of Vicki's beliefs and things like that. As you all know, I'm a huge advocate and ally and things like that. However, I think when Andy told her that she was getting this award, the look on her face, she just seemed so genuinely touched and happy that I just couldn't help but feel happy for her. And to be honest, I kind of decided to give up the ghost in terms of, anger and frustration regarding Vicki and this whole thing. Everybody makes mistakes and, she did. So the recent episode of Real Housewives of Orange County, she did address the fact that everybody was right about Brooks. People tried to tell her and she didn't want to listen. So I was like, okay, she can own that. Great. I think one of my biggest bugaboos with Vicki was just the fact that she doesn't seem to take ownership of stuff that she does. And so, that's that. But I'm happy for Vicki. She really, there's a debate on Real Housewives of Orange County, Real Housewives of New York, who started what, but they, episode 1 of both and season 1, they're both absolutely iconic. And so I give that to Vicki. I give credit where credit is due. I'm excited for her. I'm happy for her. And I hope she is moving on and is truly in a happy relationship. She also talked about Steve Lodge, how, he literally just used her. I felt, really badly about that. But here's the thing about Vicki is that she doesn't have, I use this analogy of, a tree with strong roots. And to be healthy, productive humans, we really have to have strong roots to help us through all the storms. So, storms can be scary, literally and figuratively. And emotional storms, those roots help you not get uprooted during an emotional storm. I think that Vicki really struggled with that. She utilized men for, to fulfill her needs instead of her fulfilling her own needs. And, I think that was triggering to a lot of women as well, because Vicki is smart. She's beautiful. She's a great businesswoman. She's just, she's just a cool gal. In a lot of ways. So I think that my wish for her is that she just finds the love that she needs within herself and is truly happy and, kind of moves on. But the one thing that Vicki did in this episode of Real Housewives of Orange County is that, she's projecting all of her stuff onto Jen, right? So poor Jen. Can we say justice for Jen Pedranti? Because I just feel like she is such a sweet soul and, it's her first season as a housewife and you can tell she's just kind of a deer in headlights. And so everyone is just railing on her about her relationship with Ryan. Guess what? Jen knows who Ryan is. She knows the concerns. She loves him and she's choosing to move forward anyway. So can we just all get off, as Bethenny would say, get off her jock? Can we just all get off of it? Because, Jen has the right to be happy. And I think Vicki projecting her stuff, which partly I'm sure is accurate. I mean, Ryan seems, to have a lot of issues and a lot of people think Jen deserves better, but Jen gets to make that decision. So for now, I support whatever decision she wants to make, and I just hope that she's happy. The other thing that I want to say about this is that what's been happening in Real Housewives of Orange County, I don't like, is the mom shaming, just the shaming in general. So first, Shannon saying that Gina, when she had her DUI, that Shannon was the reason that her kids weren't taken away from CPS, which, for those who don't know, CPS is Child and Protective Services. And it's in place to help children in situations where there's abuse or neglect. So to say that Gina could have lost her kids because of a DUI is absurd. I have worked with parents who have been in recovery from addiction, and trust me, nobody feels worse than them when it comes to them doing things that don't serve them or don't support them in any way. You can be a wonderful parent and have had a history of whether it's a DUI addiction, what have you. So I just think that's a really damaging insinuation. I don't like it. And I think for somebody who is so bothered by people just talking about what you can see with your eyes, that the relationship between her and John was not excellent, I just think it's very hypocritical and incredibly unkind. And the other thing is when Tamara said to Jen that she ruined her whole family for a player, I just felt gutted for Jen, because the thing is that, when I just got out of grad school, my first job was primarily working with children and families. And I did have to make reports to children and youth. Because at this time I was working in Philadelphia, and it's called something different everywhere you go. But I did have to do those hard things, and I did see children being abused, and it was a really challenging job. And I think that what I can tell people watching this who are either in the midst of divorce or kind of going through it, kids are happy when parents are happy. Okay, and the thing about being a parent is that you still deserve to be happy and have good things for you in addition to being a parent. So if Jen wasn't happy in her marriage, she does deserve to be happy. Jen seems to really focus on her kids and make sure that they're happy too and they're well adjusted. And in my estimation, I give her a ton of credit. Navigating this type of situation, whether it's divorce or changing partners, is not easy. But I do want people to know that, if you're a parent listening to this, you do deserve to be happy in your relationships. And kids are happy when parents are happy. So I've seen kids be much happier when their parents are separate, but happier. Being around fighting or yelling or, anger, resentment, that's not good for kids. So I just think that we have to be really careful before we judge people's situation, especially Tamara, because she did divorce Simon and then, got together with Eddie, and there was some challenges there with her family and her kids that she has talked about from her own mouth. So I just think, again, if you're going to live in a glass house, you better be aware of that before you throw a stone. And now Tamara is doing her job. She came to play, and she is a great housewife. I mean, I tend to believe that Tamara off the show and on the show are different people. Being a good person and being a good housewife aren't necessarily congruent. Sometimes they can be, but oftentimes not so much. We like our housewives full of drama and things like that. So, I get all sides of it. I just, really wanted to put that out there for people listening who are struggling, is that if you're happy, your kids are happy. And, don't forget about your needs. Just because you're a parent doesn't mean you don't have needs. Okay. So moving on from that, the next thing I wanted to talk about was the Kim Zolciak kind of drama that's been going on. So for new listeners, I did an episode that is free on Apple Podcasts about Kim, and I did a whole episode with Amy about my clinical interpretations, what I think is going on, and you can find that on my link tree as well. So what I talked about in that episode, I'm going to give a snippet here, but First, what I want to just say is that I think Kim, is not well. I think that what Croy has said is that she has, addiction to gambling. She's got an addiction to shopping and compulsive behavior and things like that. And so for me, I can tell kind of when I look at somebody, I have this ability to kind of emotionally scan. I know it sounds very strange, and just get a sense of what they might be feeling. And when I see pictures of Kim, I just see someone who looks really unwell emotionally and is really struggling. So part of what Kim has been doing is she's going on the surreal life. And, I have conflicted thoughts about that because it does feel a little exploitative to have someone on the show who she clearly, needs, they clearly need the funds. I mean, they have a lot of kids and there's colleges and school clothes. And I mean, it's expensive having kids, let alone 5 or 6. I forget how many that they have, but, it's addiction is a terrible disease and it is a family disease as well. So what that means is that it's not just the person with the addiction that struggles, it's the entire family. And I have a lot of compassion for all of them, Kim included. I know people get really angry at Kim because she's doing underhanded things because she's not well. So I think I just have a lot of empathy for it because, when I worked in an inpatient residential treatment facility for addiction, I would see these people come in and just be a complete shell. And through 30, 60, 90 days, turn into these people literally like a butterfly coming out of its cocoon. And it was an honor and a privilege to see. And it taught me a lot about what drugs and alcohol can take from people, especially over a long period of time. So I just think that, I hope that Kim can get the help that she needs. I hope that Croy can get the help that he needs. And especially, most importantly, is that the kids get whatever help and services that they need. I just think, it's hard for everybody involved. And, I send them a lot of love. The other thing I wanted to share is that for people who are listening or watching this that, have a family member who has struggled with addiction. If you're not familiar, there's something called Al-Anon, and Al-Anon is a 12-step group for family members and loved ones of people who with addiction. And there's a reason, we need support too. People like us. I'm an ACOA myself. So I think that it's important everybody needs to get the support that they deserve. So there's Al-Anon, and there's a lot of 12-step groups for, both substance addictions and for what I call process addictions. So process addictions are where you're not addicted to a substance per se, but you're addicted to a process of, for example, gambling, food, sex and love addiction. They have, it's called Sex and Love Addiction Anonymous. That's their 12-step group. There's Gamblers Anonymous, things like that. So if anyone's interested, you can just Google Al-Anon in my area or Gamblers Anonymous in my area or whatever, Google it, and it will give you a list of meetings that you can go to if you so wish. I think these groups can be helpful. And, if you're interested, check that out. So the last thing that I want to talk about is Southern Charm. Wow. Southern Charm has a lot of... Southern Charm is ripe for interpretation. Let me say that. I have not watched Southern Charm since the beginning, but I did get into it, I think with the whole Madison Austin drama, which it feels like it's been going on for 10 years now. So I did get in, and it's really fascinating. It came back this week, and wow, is it juicy. There is a lot of information about, Shep and Austin in particular that I feel I can talk about. Craig as well, but Craig seems to be the only one who's, managing and maintaining a healthy relationship. So the one thing I want to point out that was hilarious, which is when Olivia and Taylor were talking when they were rollerblading, which I love to see people rollerblading. It's a lost art. I feel like that's all I did in the 80s. It was so fun. So when Olivia's talking about how Austin just was like incapable of commitment, and she talked about how it was like a fun house. You look from the outside and you're like, oh, this will be fun. And then you go inside and it's just scary and it's distorted self-perception. And then you come out and you throw up. I cackled so hard because to me, it's such a spot on analogy for exactly, I'm sure, how she feels. And I'm sure how Taylor feels too. They were with men who are emotionally immature and emotionally unavailable. And to me, they both have components of self-sabotage in their personalities. So a lot of times, I saw this, working in an inpatient residential treatment facility is, people sabotage themselves all the time. I mean, just clients in general. It's not just people with addiction. People self-sabotage all the time. But when you watch somebody do it over and over, and then they also are screwing over someone else in the process, it just is kind of gross. And, I think for me, Austin and Shep, they just, are lacking on some personal development, emotional development, I would say. And, they deserve to be happy too. So I hope for their sake that they can work on that. I definitely think with Shep, there is a large amount of entitlement. And, Austin, I think his stuff comes from something different. For those people who don't know, Austin his sister died tragically when they were young. And I think that he's got a lot of unresolved grief and trauma from that. So I tend to have a little bit more empathy for Austin than for Shep. I just think Shep is just kind of like an entitled, immature person. And, I think he can put on a great face and be really kind and, gregarious. And he likes to use, he has a great vocabulary, but I think it's all a mask to keep his, the stuff that's here just to keep it protected. But the problem with that is that it eventually comes out. So I look forward to seeing, the moments where, Shep takes off his mask and we see, what's behind it. But it looks like it's going to be a heck of a season. And so if you haven't watched Southern Charm yet, this is a spoiler alert. So I'll give you time to exit. But Taylor really, oh yikes, she made some very serious missteps at Madison and Brett's engagement party. She made a fool of herself, and she just here's the thing, you could tell her roots weren't strong. I referenced that before. When we have heartbreak, there is nothing that can uproot us more than heartbreak. So she got totally uprooted by heartbreak, and now she's just flowing with the wind, and she's just yelling at Craig. And she made this comment at the end about how Craig, how Paige cheated on Craig. And I was like, oh girl, Paige is going to eat you up for that. I mean, I'm a tough cookie, but I don't know that I'd want to mess with Paige. So, to be continued. I can't wait to see what comes next with all of that. And, it's certainly going to be an interesting season. So that's going to be the end of this episode for today. I thank everyone sincerely for all the support, all the feedback, all the constructive feedback that I've gotten. Ultimately, I do want to have guests on the show. I just need time to get those guests because I am new and I'm starting out. So I'm going to try my best to do that. And I also want to hear, from you all, what do you want me to talk about Do you like a little bit of a lot of things like I did today? Do you like me to talk about one long big thing and give my interpretations of that? I just want to hear what you want to hear. So feel free to go to my Instagram, Your Bish Therapist on Instagram. Send me a message or comment there. I am Your Bish Therapist on YouTube. And anywhere you can find podcasts, search Your Bish Therapist. I am also on Facebook and TikTok as Your Bish Therapist. I'm not on there as much, full disclosure, but I appreciate everybody who is supporting me sincerely. I'm focusing on that. I will not forget that. And, there's so much content and so little time. The thing I do want to just be clear about is that, I am managing a chronic cancer and many chronic health issues. So for me, there's so much content and not a ton of time. My full-time job is taking care of myself, and this is becoming the love of my life, what I'm doing now. So I'm just really trying to balance it out. And I appreciate you all sticking with me in the process. So I'm going to do my best to have some guests on, and I definitely want to cover, true crime and the murders. Oh my gosh, I really want to talk about that. So I'm going to come up with some really great shows for you in the next couple weeks, and I just hope that you enjoy them. So for today, this is going to be, that's going to be it for Your Bish Therapist. Thank you so much for listening, watching, or whatever it is that you're doing. I appreciate you all very much. And until next time, take care.